Hey everyone, once again Attorney Grant A. Toeppen here, working through the various case forms that you will use to establish a limited conservatorship of the person. So I am an estate planning attorney based in Manteca. I also have an office in Livermore. I also do probates and limited conservatorships. So nothing in this video constitutes legal advice. It's just how I fill out these forms. And nothing in this video creates an attorney-client relationship between you and me. So today we are going to be filling out a fee waiver for a conservatorship. So what this does is if the limited conservatee or the petitioner receives government benefits, or if there is a household income that is low enough, then court fees can be waived in whole or in part. So court fees for a limited conservatorship, at least in San Joaquin, are typically about $1,100, usually $435 for the filing of the petition, and about $650 for the conservatorship investigation. There's a confidential court investigator who visits, and that also has a fee attached with it. So if the request to waive court fees is granted, then of course these fees are waived. So let's jump right in. So we're going to start with this field on the right, which is the court address and the county. So this is the county where the conservatorship is being petitioned for. I'm going to fill it out for San Joaquin. Make sure you use the right court address here. Check the court's website if you're not sure. Case number. Typically you bring in the request to waive court fees at the same time that you are filing your petition, because if you bring this in after you file your petition, you already paid the $435. So what's the point of filing the request to waive court fees? So what that boils down to is you probably won't have a case number when you bring this in. Bring it in at the time of the petition, the court will provide the case number for you, okay? Excuse me. For a case name, you are going to put limited conservatorship of the person only, assuming you're applying for one of the person only, of, and then I'm just going to put John Smith, whoever the proposed limited conservatee is. So these next parts are pretty self-explanatory. Name, oops, phone number. Make sure you put in good addresses for the court to reach you. You can see here the form is a little wonky too for how they actually have it filled out. It's not as easy as it should be. You can handwrite on these forms too, by the way. It doesn't need to be typed out if that's difficult for you. Street or mailing address. Once again, you want to make sure it's a good address for the court to reach you in case anything pops up. So I'm filling this all out assuming you do not have an attorney, so you could leave part 2 blank, including A and B. Now this is the ward or conservatee's information, the developmentally disabled individual for whom you are requesting a limited conservatorship over. So I'm just going to say John Smith, age and date of birth. That's for ward only. You are not going to have to worry about that for the limited conservatorship of the person. Street or mailing address of this individual, I'll just make it up. Once again, it fills out a little weird for the court's PDF here. So if the ward or conservatee has a lawyer, you would fill this portion out. Chances are that has not happened yet. Ward or conservatee's job. Job title, if not employed, so state. So usually not employed, but sometimes there is employment, and you can fill that out if there is. The name of employer, employer's address, etc. I'm just going to put an NA to all of this. It doesn't want me to do it there. Alright. So, if you are applying for a limited conservatorship of the person, you are asking for a waiver of superior court fees. For 7, you would check here if you've asked the court to waive court fees for this case in the last 6 months. And if that request is available, attach it here. Typically not the case. Okay, so here's where we start to provide the information that the court's going to want to see qualifies you for a fee waiver, aka shows that there's sufficient need for, in the interest of justice, for these costs to be waived. So the easiest way is if either of the conservatee or the conservatee's spouse receives any form of government benefit, right? SSI, state supplemental payment, food stamps, IHSS, CalWorks, or Tribal TANF, Medi-Cal, County Relief Assistance, CAPI. So if they receive any of these, you can click more than one if applicable. And then you can list conservatee receives these benefits, if that is true. If you fill out A and do this truthfully, you will get the fee waiver. No further investigation, all right? You don't need to do B, C, any of this stuff below, all right? I'm going to go through it for you just so you can see if maybe 8A doesn't work, but I have had clerks informally tell me that their default is to provide the fee waiver for people who have filled out just this part, if that's applicable. And for the rest of this, if you're trying to do a fee waiver based on income, it can be a little trickier and there's more scrutiny. But let's go through it, okay? Because we have to tell the truth on these, and let's do that. So for 8B, if that were applicable, if 8A didn't work, you would check your family size, family income, and if it were applicable, you'd click the box. Notice, if more than 6 people at home, add 460.42 for each extra person, okay? So that's how to calculate if you have a family size of 10 or something like that. Now C, this is where it would get a lot more complicated. There's a whole schedule to fill out on the last page, and you could click this, and then you could ask if you were asking to waive all court fees and costs, some court fees and costs, or make the payments over time. So probably best to ask for all court fees and costs. Better to ask for more and get less than to ask for less and get even less than that, because the court will sign a separate order just because they don't give you everything that you asked for. I figure it's worth asking. So ward's estate, number 9. You're not going to have to worry about this. Or ward's parents' information. That's not the case type for a limited conservatorship. Just skip, skip, skip. So 11, we're applying for the person only, no estate. Easy. But if you were applying for a conservatorship of the estate, then you would click this box, fill this out. Conservatee spouses or registered domestic partners information. So this you would fill out accordingly if the limited conservatee were married or had a domestic partnership. Usually not applicable, but if it is, it's pretty self-explanatory here. You would provide the name, date of marriage if that person was deceased, mailing address, employer information. If the conservatee's spouse or partner is involved in money management, if there's a divorce, providing the case number, there's a support order, providing that. 13, the conservatee and trusts. Okay, so this is where you would choose, typically is not a trustor, settlor of a trust, or a beneficiary of a trust. But if they are, of course, tell the truth and choose the first box, not the second. Take note that if you selected is to complete any of the above statements, identify and provide in an attachment to this request the current address and telephone number of the current trustee of each trust, describe the general terms and value of each trust, and the nature and value of the conservatee's interest in each trust, and the amount and frequency of any distributions or to or for the benefit of the conservatee prior to your appointment as conservator. You may use just judicial counsel form, the MC025, or you could fill out a Microsoft Word document, call it attachment 13, slap it on the back. Down here, you would provide the date, provide the signature. Pretty straightforward. Now we get to the schedule, all right? So this is if, back up here, you clicked C. A and B didn't work. We weren't having a situation where the conservatee is receiving government benefits. We didn't have the easy calculation of a low family income for the family size. So instead we're saying, hey, we have a situation where we believe that a fee waiver is appropriate and the court's going to apply a lot of scrutiny if we end up going this route. So 14, you would check if the conservatee's income changes a lot from month to month. You would list the source of gross monthly income as specified here. Wages, other income from work before deductions, spousal or child support, retirement, social security, disability, unemployment, military basic allowance for quarters, veterans payments, dividends, interest, trust income, annuities, net business or rental income, reimbursement for job-related expenses, gambling or lottery winnings, etc. If there's not enough space, use a Microsoft Word document, put attachment 15 on the top, and slap it on the back of this when you file. Warder conservatee's household income, list the income of all other persons living in the warder conservatee's home who depend in whole or in part on him or her for support, or on whom he or she depends in whole or in part for support. Pretty self-explanatory. You would fill this out. If you needed to check box C, not A and B from above, you can add, here's sort of a catch-all if there are extra facts that you think the court should be aware of. Going back up here, we would list the assets of the conservatee, the cash, bank accounts, vehicles, real estate if owned by the conservatee, other property. Once again, you can include an attachment if this isn't enough space. And then monthly deductions and expenses, which you can see. Payroll deductions, renter house payment, food and household supplies, utility, telephone, clothing, laundry, cleaning, medical, dental expenses, insurance, school, childcare, child, spousal support, transportation, gas, auto repair, and insurance, installment payments, wages, other monthly expenses. And then you put that here. And so then you would file this with the court, bring it in triplicate, one original, 2 copies, typically does the trick, and the court will, the clerk, right when you bring this in, will review this, and you'll know right away whether or not the fee waiver is being granted in whole, in part, or not at all. So in another video, I'll show you how to fill out the order for a fee waiver, which is incredibly simple, but you also need to make sure that you bring in the order for the clerk to stamp and fill out if the fee waiver is being granted or whatever is happening. Okay, so I hope you guys have found this video useful, and have a good one. Thanks.